Hello, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. I had a fun morning preparing for this a little bit, and you don't know any of the questions I'm going to ask or where I'm going to go. I don't even know where I'm really going to go. It's like, it's crazy. Like I plan and I have like this general idea, but I don't know why I'm choosing what I'm choosing. Does that make sense?
Hey, it's the flow. Go
It's
with the
the flow.
flow.
We're gonna go with the flow. So I want to first of all ask you about your week, because you had something special on yesterday. I saw a little Insta. Was it no a reel? Did I see a reel or Insta? Does it matter?
Yeah, it was a reel on Insta. It was both. I
Oh,
know. Listen to
okay.
us, tech savvy women,
I'm so impressed with you. Look at you, 61-year-old go. I
reels and Insta and everything. And episode 2 of the shit show. Like, how did
right?
this happen so fast?
It's
Yeah.
amazing. Here we are.
Yeah. Here we are.
Yeah, so yeah, the shit show, Navigating Shitstorms, is Liz's book. I always just want a little gotta put it in there. But first I want to hear about your week, because we talked last week about your nude class that you had gone to, and this week you are now an expert in nude posing. Can you tell me a bit about
Yeah.
like everything? I have all the
So
questions.
all the questions. Well, we've already established that there are no boundaries for questions for this event. Yeah, you know what? I'm still kind of processing. It was it was not nearly as awkward or vulnerable as I thought. It didn't take me a solid 10 minutes to stop shaking or be nervous or anything. The people were It's an artist creative environment, and so it's different. It was comfortable, it was welcoming, and it
Did
was
it
it was
feel sacred? It didn't feel like you were going into a Playboy shoot. It was more a
no.
sacred thing, right?
Yeah, it really was. And they were so grateful for the opportunity. They have a hard time finding people. And I think partly it's because I live in a very small community. And so the odds that you're going to run into somebody at the grocery store or the bank or the coffee shop are higher than in most other places, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably part of it. It it felt natural, and I learned a lot about posing, though. Let me tell you, the 1 minute poses are super easy. So we started off with 1 minute poses, kind of rapid fire, 15 of them, and which is the purpose for the artist to just get their hands warmed up and to get into the groove of drawing. It's a warm-up exercise for them. And then they started getting longer. There was 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, 15, a couple 20s, and then we had a break, and then there were two 30-minute poses. And the first 30-minute pose, oh my God, it was not a good pose. I was sitting on a chair and I had my one leg sticking out because they're in a circle around me. And so they want me to be mindful of sticking an arm or a leg out for the people that are behind, because they've got less to draw
Right.
unless I stick something out, right? And I only have one working arm, so that was kind of out. The other, and so I put the other leg out, but just my leg straight on this little stool, my knee, after about 10 minutes. The staticness of muscles is something I'm in motion. I'm always in motion, and sure,
Right.
I'll sit still to meditate or something else. But even at that, I will, I'll make some subtle adjustments to my body if I feel a little discomfort, which in this case I couldn't do. I mean, they're very forgiving and they're very accommodating, and they just want me to be comfortable because they want me to come back. And I'm also one of the people that I want to do the best job that I can. If I'm going to do something, I want to be really good at it, with an understanding that for the first time I do anything, there's going to be things that I don't know. And nobody knows what they don't know. So of course I'm going to be better if I were to do it again, and I haven't decided if I will. But I still wanted to be my very best. And so it's like, I committed to this pose for 30 minutes. I'm not going to fucking move. I'm not going to be that model who says, I can't do this. So it was
Could you ever even get that pose back? Like if you got up to stretch for a second, could you ever really get back in that exact same pose?
I
Maybe they
think
could
I
help
could come
you?
close, and I think with their direction, because they were left off at whatever spot they left off, so they would be able to say, move your arm a little bit here, your leg. They would
Right.
probably be able to help me, but that wasn't the point. I didn't want for them to have to do that, you
Yeah.
know? And so it was a push in mind. It was a mind over mattering through the discomfort, which there's always value in that, whether it's physical discomfort or emotional discomfort,
Mm.
to have to do the things that aren't always easy or fun.
Mhm.
That was one of my big takeaways. So I'm grateful that I got myself into that silly little pose, which I won't do again. Check mark, learned that lesson.
How long did
Yeah.
you have between half-hour poses then? Did you have like a 5 minutes to stretch, or what was the?
No, no, just like on to the next between the 2:30s. So
Oh,
the second 30-minute one I did lying down, and that was for the most part relaxing, but that one had a challenge too. So I was on this wooden platform that is maybe 4 feet square, so not enough to completely lie down. I had a stool for my one foot to go on, and my other leg was bent, but there was a cushion, and then there was a sheet covering it all. And my bent leg was on the sheet, but it kept slipping. My bent leg wouldn't stay. Like
yeah,
I had no gription on my heel to hold
right.
my leg there. So it required me to use my muscles to hold my leg bent, as opposed to the resistance of
Were
my
you like
heel.
shaking? Was it shaking by the end? You're like,
Well,
oh,
it kept slipping. It kept slipping, and it kept slipping more frequently as time progressed.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I started giggling a little bit at the slipping, and like, oh, I hope they're not drawing my face, because now I'm starting to giggle.
Right, because they
But
would,
it all
your
worked
pose
out.
would include your face too, right? Like, so if you're smiling, they're drawing a smile. If you're,
Right. So, and I was at least had the foresight to not put on a huge big smile for a 30-minute thing, because then my face would have been on fire, right?
yeah. What were you thinking during your 30-minute sessions? Like like other than the fact of like all the logistics of what was happening, could you sort of like get into like meditation a bit? Were you thinking about what they were thinking? What were you thinking?
Well, to start with, because the poses were each only 1 minute long, all I was thinking was, what pose am I going to do next? So that I'm not, because it's fairly rapid fire, so that I'm not standing there not knowing what to do. So for the first 15 minutes, that's all I was focusing on. But I did get an audible gasp of appreciation, because one of those 1 minute poses, I did the yoga tree pose on one leg,
Oh,
balance for
wow.
a minute, and they were like, oh, they were
Are
very
you a yoga, are you a yogi? Like, do you
uh
practice?
yes and no, a little bit. And I certainly haven't been active in that for the last year much, because of my shoulder issue, but I do love it, and I can still balance. And so that was one. And then as the poses got longer, I did have a little bit more time to reflect. The venue was gorgeous. This art center is an old log structure in town, and it had a, what do you call those? Kind of like a turret, but there's another word for it. Anyways, where the ceiling is, it's octagon shaped, and it's
Yeah.
really high, and it had all skylights up there, and I was directly underneath that.
Oh,
So when my eyes were open, I could look all the way up and outside. And I think I probably had a flash of, I wonder what they're thinking, but more it was about, I'm surprised, a little surprised that I'm not more self-conscious
mm,
than I think I expected I would be. I tried not to have expectations that were very finite about anything. And but I think, to compare versus expectations. So I did have that thought. I also had the thoughts of the concept of time. And he
Mm.
would call out for the longer poses, for 30 minutes. He would generally, one person who was keeping time would say, we're at 15 minutes, which was, and then 5 minutes left, and then 1 minute, which was not for my benefit, more rather for the artists to finish up whatever they're working on so that they know when their time is going to be up with that pose. And it was an interesting, for some of the poses, the time went slower, and for some it went faster.
Interesting. The concept
Yeah.
of time. Oh, I could get into that for a little bit, but I won't.
Right.
Time is
Uh,
illusion, blah, blah, blah. It all happens now. Like, I just,
yes, yes. I was very present though, and it was interesting to feel. So there were two fans. They were warm air, but it was air also moving, and it was interesting to feel air moving on body parts that normally don't feel air moving.
right?
Right.
Like,
So there was a
even of, excuse me, of our chest, right? Like,
yes.
even just a bra on, even when we get massaged, we never, like, almost nobody. I mean, I was not in the business, but I worked at a health clinic, right? My oldest is a massage therapist, and like almost never, no women gets like their chest muscles massaged even. So even like nothing's exposed even almost ever,
Right.
you know?
And not even to touch, but even just to the elements, just to the air. I mean, some people
Right.
walk around their house naked all the time. I personally live with my 85-year-old dad, so I do not. In my bedroom, maybe, but also not for any extended period of time. Certainly not for 3 hours, right? So even to have that skin exposed to the air for 3 hours
Warm
was
air.
a very freeing feeling, and so I've never been attracted to or known anybody who frequents nudist colonies, where they go, but having spent 3 hours without clothes on, there is a sense of freedom that comes with that I can understand a little bit better. Not that I'm going to go joining a
So,
nudist
it's
colony
funny that you say that because about 20 minutes from my house, but right
now.
by my friend's house, is a nudist camp.
Oh,
And my thought is, I wonder if Liz could do it. Like, I wonder if I could do it. I wonder what that experience will be like, and like why people choose to do it even, like
right? Yeah.
that's your
I mean,
next
I think,
step. You've done a new
yeah.
art class and your next step is, could you
I,
imagine?
no, not quite. I don't think so. And like I was static, I was not engaging with anybody. There was no conversation. And there wasn't even any music, which I found interesting. It was absolutely silent. You'd hear the rustling of paper. Occasionally, an artist would drop a pen or a brush or something, or a pad of paper once. You might hear a little bit of mumbling, but it was very quiet, which I did ask them about afterwards. And I think if I ever decide to go back and they really pleaded their case and they really want me back, I would request that I bring some music. And when I asked, they said, well, one artist's idea of relaxing, creative, calm music is not the same as someone else's. And maybe they've tried it and they just haven't, someone's had an objection to whatever music was playing, so they've just decided no. But as the model, I recognize now that there is a little bit of power in that, because they're looking for people. And I also held some really interesting poses for them, and I wasn't inhibited or just static and totally boring for them either. So I bet I could probably put whatever music I want on.
What if you
And I
just
couldn't.
what did you like one earbud at least, because then you could hear the time on one and you can be as present as possible for the people around, right? Because you're sort of like keeping one ear open.
That's
Yeah.
an awesome idea. That's a great idea, because someone did suggest earbuds, and I was like, well, I need to be able to hear the time, but I could put one in. If I do it again,
Yeah.
that's what I'll do.
Yeah. Then everybody's
Yeah,
satisfied. Like,
right.
why do people want to do like you do art, right? Is that art behind you yours?
Yes, yes, it is.
So you're an artist and you understand the medium of art. I am not an artist in that way. My sister is the artist in the family. And so I guess I'm wondering, what is it that draws people to nude art? Do you know? Like,
As an artist,
yeah.
I think from what I understand is the challenge in drawing the human form. And I think it's the human body can only be seen without without anything covering it up. And it's also a little bit rare. They don't get the opportunity. It's not a mainstream opportunity. They can't just grab a pen and paper and go out and draw a naked human form.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So I think there's a little bit of exclusivity to it in having access to people to draw.
Mhm.
So
Nice.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end, I was totally shocked that I was getting paid. And they're like, "What? Nobody told you?" It's like, no, nobody told me anything. I didn't get instructions, email, like it was pretty loosey goosey. And like, you thought we just expected you to come here for 3 hours of your time and pose nude for
You're like,
free?
yeah, we're
And I was
gonna
like,
make videos about it.
well, kind of doing it for me too. And they're like, no, you're getting paid.
That's
So
hilarious. And I loved your reel because, and I had shared this with you. I don't know if you thought it was this funny, but like your first part of your reel is like, I'm going to this class, and you were like, your hair's all done and everything else. And then it reminded me of a kid after the first day of school that you're like, and so I did it, and it was wonderful, and it's great, and here I am. That's what it
yeah,
felt like a
that's
little
pretty
bit.
much how it looked. Yeah, yeah. Just the different poses, and also, I mean, my hair's not that long, but they really wanted to see my neck, and especially for the people at the back who didn't have anything else.
Sounds like I'm missing a whole lot of fun.
You
This is
are.
my friend Debbie Damasio is here visiting from
Hello, Deb.
Ontario.
We're actually recording. Do you realize that we're recording? Like this is gonna be, you're gonna be famous one day, because we're gonna be famous one day. So still take your clothes off, because we are filming.
So Debbie was responsible for my good hair in the first video yesterday.
Yeah, your hair
And
looks great.
yeah, so it was up and tousled, and yeah, I just probably thrown my clothes back on and didn't really care what it looked like when I came back out.
So okay, so I want to keep these videos, we discussed last time, like we did fit 40 minutes. We're going to keep them a little bit shorter, because
Yeah.
if I'm watching a video, I do not want to watch 40-minute videos every single time. But I want to just bring it back to your book, sort of in the last little bit here, and sort of the correlation of what you did and your book. And we could talk about your Freedomville art, I noticed was something that you've done, which I'm not really familiar with. Or how does what you did, the lessons that you learned from this, tie into your book? Because this was really a fearless act of courage, I think. Like that, that took a lot. You learned lessons from it. Probably actually wasn't as terrifying as the thoughts that we make up in our mind. So
Yep.
what were the lessons like that correlate to what you're teaching us in your book and what you've learned in your life and where you're at right now?
Yeah, several of the things that you just identified, Carolyn. The voices in our head in anticipation of something that we've never done before, and the fear are always so much worse than the reality. And it gave me additional confidence, not so much in my body and myself and my presence, but also in the shit we say to ourselves. You know, nobody's going to want to see your old body, and artists aren't going to appreciate, you know, any or see any beauty in that. And it was quite the opposite. They reiterated how they value the human form in all shapes and sizes, and we're so grateful for my showing up, and that I did such a wonderful job for them with interesting poses that I was able to hold.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was an up-leveling about learning to love myself. You know, I mean, we talked about it last episode, how women in particular are so critical, and mainly about our appearance. We can't stop the aging process, and a lot of us try to do that, and there's no judgment around what people decide to do as far as, you know, plastic surgery and Botox and, or anything else.
Yeah.
But at some point, nature does take over and we are aging. And for me, there's a beauty in embracing that and avoiding the angst and the anxiety and all that, the shit that goes along with that, that is an impediment to us being present and enjoying our relationships and our experiences and whatever is happening in our world right now, because we're, you know, we're thinking, you know, oh, I can't wear the sleeveless top because I got fucking saggy arms now, you know? And honestly, nobody cares, especially not the people that matter to us. They don't care.
I was gonna, you know what, the story popped into my mind. It was probably about 2010. I was in my running journey at that point, and I hated this running because I'm really super competitive, and yet I was always at the back of the pack. I was one of the slowest ones because everyone had practiced for so long, and I was new at it, but I was still new at it, and I was still doing it, right? And I have come through a lot of self-conscious days, and I remember one of my friends who's a great athlete said to me, I said, I must have said something about when I'm running by myself or whatever it was. And she said, do you know nobody cares? Like, nobody cares. Like, I'm like, but people
Right?
come by, they're watching me, blah, blah, blah. She's like, but nobody actually cares. And when I
Right.
think about what's going on in my mind, I have like, it feels like a bunch of like scribbles and a whole bunch of like thoughts and explosions and everything else. But when I look at you, I don't see any of that going on in your mind. I just see the quietness in this moment that you're like perceiving that you're listening to me, right? That makes sense. So
Absolutely.
the things that we perceive and how we are being perceived, it's just an interesting way to not interesting. I'm not even making sense. I'm not making sense because I'm
No, you are. You're totally making sense. And the act of me being there, present as a nude model, just exemplified, and it brought to the surface. It showed that people don't care what I'm thinking or what's going on with me.
I really
They're just
don't care
grateful
what
I'm
you look
there.
like. Like, I don't care that you have a little bit of extra fat on your arm, or that it's crinkly, or that you didn't shave today. Like, I don't care. I care that I have that little bit of extra fat in the arm, or that I didn't shave or whatever, but I don't care what you're doing. And in fact, say we're going out to the lake together and like we're both got bathing suits on and no cover-ups or anything, because women tend to wear like t-shirt or something like that. I just wouldn't care. And I would think, oh, how brave she is because she's doing A, B, and C. And that's what people, I'm sure the artists especially, were thinking of you, how grateful they were that you were just there, that you just showed up, that you just were. And all of the other shit was just in your mind that you just created for what reason? For what reason?
Just for that shitty voice in our head to keep us afraid, you know. And that's the awareness about our inner dialogue, and the things that we're listening to that shitty voice say have zero impact on the experience for the other people. In fact, the little things that make my body different than a 25-year-old body are what made it interesting for them to draw. So
the gift, like you were the gift.
It was a gift.
You were the gift.
Yes.
Right? Like,
yes. The things that I was concerned about or thought negatively about myself were the gift to them.
yeah.
And we all and that's our unique gift that we all have, is to just really lean into, accept, and learn to love ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
As weird and quirky and you know, flawed, if you will, as we all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. So we're wrapping up now. I want to do rapid fire questions. This one's going to take a little bit more thought, but not as hard as last time. And next time's is even a little bit harder. It's just different. So are you ready?
Okay.
What is your favorite? And I can give you a minute or two to, not a minute or two, but time to think about this one. What is your favorite, just one, all-time favorite movie?
I'm gonna say Titanic.
Really?
And maybe partly because I was thinking of that yesterday, the scene where she Rose lets Jack do a sketch of her nude on the couch. But that movie just I like weirdly, I like kind of disaster movies and that fight for survival piece. And I like ships, and I like, well, I just had all the elements. It had the romance, it had the intrigue, it had the human grit, all of those parts. I thought it was just
Wow.
incredibly well written.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a long movie too, though. Like
I know.
That's for a favorite movie, you know, like sometimes you play the favorite movie on in the background while you're doing something. Like that's a really big investment.
So,
but I
yeah.
appreciate that that's your favorite movie. What's your favorite genre of movies to watch?
Oh, I'm a rom-com. You know, even the corny Hallmark movies, I do like those.
Light.
Yeah, light, easy, fun, happy ending, uplifting, inspiring. If I'm going to spend a couple of hours being entertained, I 90% of the time want to come away from it feeling better, not feeling stressed or anxious or sad, usually.
Nice. Okay. Your favorite book, just one book you had to recommend it to like anybody in the world. Your favorite book recommended to your favorite person that knows that would understand whatever that book is. Let's say
Gone with the Wind. I inherited an original, I don't know if it's I don't think it's a first edition, but it's a 1939, I want to say, old copy of Gone with the Wind. And I love old books to begin with. I love the silky feel of the paper that they used to print on. I like the smell of them, a little bit musty. I like the covers, and it's thick. It's like a 3-inch book, and I've read it 3 times over 40 years. It's a little bit hard it's written with the pronunciation of the language of the people at the time. So it requires some brain work and almost sometimes reading aloud to understand what they're saying, the way it's written. And books are always so much better than movies, but that's my favorite book.
I love
for all those reasons.
I actually love how you just described that. My aunt described reading a book like that to me once, so that just reminded me of that. Okay, what's your favorite book genre? Like, let's say nonfiction or fiction. If you're gonna have to pick one, we did this last week.
I know. So I usually I do both.
Right.
I do both. I read fiction at night, and I read nonfiction otherwise.
So, like, when you're reading your fiction, what is your genre that you're reading of fiction?
Oh, it would be pretty much the same. Either like memoir, which isn't really fiction, or like I call them fluff novels. They're like rom-com movies in a book.
Oh, I love that.
It's fluff. It's easy.
I love that. Okay, who's your singer? Your favorite singer or band?
Fleetwood Mac.
Oh wow, I'm learning so much about you. That does show your age a little bit too, though, right? Because like,
yeah, for sure.
Which 20-year-old's not saying Fleetwood?
I know. The album Rumors came out, I think I was 16 at the time, and it's still my favorite album. I enjoy all kinds of music, but Fleetwood Mac.
A little embarrassing, but who's the lead singer of Fleetwood? Can you remind me?
Stevie Nicks. Yeah. And she's still out there.
Sing that like amazing rendition of, was it Stairway to Heaven? Did you?
I don't know.
I'm gonna Possibly. Have to look it. I'm gonna look it up. And,
I'd like to hear it if she did. I'm not aware.
There was. I think it was Stairway to Heaven, which I can't remember who sang that song now. And it was played like someone sang it and played it with a massive band, and then the band was listening.
Oh, that's fun.
Somebody watch if anybody watches this, they're going to be like, "It's this, Carolyn. Why don't you know?" I can't.
Right, and they can put it in the notes so that we know.
I think it was Stevie Nicks though, because Trevor and I've watched them a number of times, and we're like, "This is an amazing rendition of this." Even the band appreciated it. Okay, your favorite color?
Oh, for what? For clothes? For paint? For flowers?
I don't know. I just don't know. For everything.
I like blues. I like pink. I don't normally like brown, but today I'm wearing brown. Lately, and maybe it's a fall thing, the brown. Black is a staple for clothes in the winter, but I don't have anything else other than clothes that's black generally.
Do you like to dress with colorful, like, do you ever, like summertime, do you use a lot of color to dress, or are you?
Not generally, more neutral.
Interesting. I have two friends that wear
neutral.
like basically all black, and I find it so fascinating. Ooh, your favorite car, like if you, I don't know if you had money to buy this car, whatever car, like what, do you have a favorite?
You know what? I saw this car at a garage sale this summer, and it was a 1946 Special Deluxe. Who made it? Oh my God, it was such a cool car. It was sort of similar to the car on the cover of my book, except it was really great royal blue. Yeah, it was bubbly, you know, it was bubbly and big. It was I think 1946. It was just a super cool car.
Nice, nice. Okay, my very last question. I did have a couple more, but we're running over time now. What is your favorite thing about your dad?
He's such a good sport. He honestly is up for trying, going anywhere. He's just a really good sport. He's up
Wow.
for he's got an open mind. He's up for anything.
Well, you just did a class, so
yes,
before we go, you have to say what he said about like his advice to you for the nude class.
Oh my God, he's so funny. So that's the other thing I really enjoy, is that we can have conversations about anything. Sometimes he gets embarrassed or won't answer me or talk to me, but there really is no topics that are off limits for us. And yeah, sometimes I may kind of not push it on him, but he doesn't get embarrassed or anything. So he knew what I was doing. He was so cute. His first response was literally, "Rot's a rock."
What does that mean?
Oh, it's like lots of luck, but it's like in a sarcastic. It's from a cartoon. I forget
It
what.
sounds like Scooby-Doo. Like, doesn't that
Yeah,
like
that's exactly what it is. Yeah, Scooby-Doo, the dog. Anyways,
so.
and then he says, "You don't want to know what I really think." And I was like, come on, tell me. And he says, "Well, all I can say is that, you know, you probably should consider some nipple cream."
Nipple cream.
I have no idea where that came from. And when I was like, really? What are you talking about? And even he couldn't connect it. He's like, "I don't really know why I said that or what it is, but you know, it just came to mind." And the only thing I can think of is that, you know, maybe 60 years ago, if my mom was breastfeeding, that was a thing. And you know, it's stuck in his head. You know, he's 85. So that whole generation of even talking about anything remotely connected to possibly being sexual is a huge,
it's incredible.
Not taboo, but he just has zero experience.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
It.
I mean, think about it. He was born in the 1930s. 1930s,
Yeah.
like we're almost at 100 years ago. His parents were born probably early 1900s, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, anyway, okay, let's wrap it up. It's been really great chatting with you.
Yeah, likewise.
Thank you so
Have
much.
an awesome day.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
All right.